Right, thanks everyone. 12 o'clock, we'll get started. Right, there will be a few more people coming on very shortly, but we'll get started anyway. So, hello and welcome everyone to the webinar. I'm Eddie Baker of Focus, Technology in the Christchurch branch. Thanks for taking the time out today to attend this webinar. It's a good turnout and hopefully we'll get you back having your lunch again very shortly. It's expected to take about 20 minutes, but I think we can whiz through that hopefully a bit quicker. Today I'll take you through a few features introduced in the latest version, MYOB XO Business 2017.1, and explain how these features can help you with your daily routine. And hopefully you'll come away with this session thinking about how you can make XO more efficient by using some of the things you're about to see. Just some housekeeping to start off with. So before beginning, I've muted everyone's phones, but please, if you need to ask any questions, you will have the webinar toolbox on the side of your screen. In there is a question pane, so you can ask questions in there, and we'll answer those. And feel free to ask questions anytime you like. You can also minimize and maximize that pane, the webinar pane, by choosing the large red arrow or orange arrow as it appears on my screen on the top of that window, and that should minimize it so you can see the full window. This webinar is also being recorded and can be made available on request. And finally, an email will be sent to everyone attending here, which will include a link to an MYOB video on some of this content that we're about to show you. Righto, so the latest version of XO was released mid-July, so it's been out for a week and a bit, couple of weeks, and we have already upgraded some clients already in their live environment and are working all right. I assume you're all aware of what's involved in upgrading, so at some point you've been upgraded, I assume. So if you're not aware though of what's involved in upgrading you to this latest version, your annual license fee that you contribute every year goes towards the cost of the software. So the software itself is free for you. It's just a cost for us Focus, for us consultants to action that upgrade for you. So that's time and any travel that's involved in that. And if you are interested, just get in contact with us either by phone, email, just ring your normal consultant and they can sort you out there. Today I'm going to start though with the main feature introduced in 2017.1 and applies to every XO user, which is the menu favorites pane. This is MYOB's first real feature using machine learning techniques. It's something that hopefully they're going to expand on in the future. So, sounds a bit technical, doesn't it? Learning techniques, machine learning techniques. But what it is basically is the menu favorites pane. And it's used to list recently or commonly used menu options in reports which users click on. It will become a more efficient way really for users to access their daily features. It removes the need to remember where to find an option in your drop-down menus, and it enables users to easily navigate to commonly used menus, options and reports. So by hovering over the menu favorites on the left-hand side opens the pane where you can see sections for recently used options and favorite actions and favorite reports. What it's doing here is it's remembering whenever you click on any of your drop-down options under the drop-down menus, it's learning what options you're clicking on here and adding it then to the menu favorites pane. I'm just going to pin this here so it stays there. And the more often you click on an option, say if we quite often click on debtor's invoice, for instance, then the debtor invoice will appear at the top of the list. If we click on, say, the stock screen though more often, that will gradually make its way to the top of the list. Click on it a couple of times and it should see that stock option moving up. There we go, it's moved up one. But in saying that, you might want say the sales orders though to always appear at the top of the list no matter how often or how infrequent you click sales orders. So we can say always show this item. What that means is that it'll mark it basically as a favorite and it will always appear at the top of the list regardless of how often you click any of the other options or how infrequent you choose sales orders. You can also customize the menu favorites pane to your liking. The menu pane itself is specific to each logged in user, so you won't see any other staff members' menu favorites on their screen, and you'll only get the options which are available to your login. So if a user doesn't have the general ledger options, then they won't see the general ledger options in here in any way. So to customize the screen to your liking, you can expand the panes to make them larger or smaller. You can, for instance, in the recent, if the recent pane isn't that important to you, you can collapse that pane and you can drag it to the bottom of the list and it'll appear down there. But we'll leave it expanded and bring it back up to the top. Come on, there we go. Alright, so basically what XO is now doing with the latest version is it's remembering and learning what you're commonly clicking on. Fairly simple, but it does save you time because otherwise you're having to go through the report structure to find whatever report that you would generally print on every month and then go through the other various drop-down menus, where this is a nice handy way just to access the commonly used actions and reports. You can also use the search feature here to search any other menu option regardless of whether it's in that pane or not, but it'll only again list the options or reports which are relative to the logged in user. I'm a full user, so I get to see all the options for debtors. Right. So the menu favorites pane, I think, will be expanded on in the future for more functionality, but out of the box, this is the feature that you get at the moment. Let's have a look at some other features that have been introduced. Another feature has been added, which is the cloud services icon. This is used to display the connectivity status of bank feeds and geolocation features. There are three states to this. If it has a X or a line through it, it means that there is a limited connectivity or no connectivity. But if the cloud icon is appearing there with no strike through it, no lines through it, then it means that bank feeds and the geolocations features are up and available. MYOB have worked on stop credit options. So in the debtor adjustment screen, you'll now be able to see if a debtor is on stop credit with their lines showing in red up the top here. So all these are looking fine at the moment, but if we choose account number, let's pick on him, all car parts, and put him in stop credit, you can now see that it is highlighted in red and we have a stop credit flag over the right hand side here. So we can control if he's on stop credit or not. This functionality has also been replicated in the integrated cash book screen. Bring the same debtor up. So again, it's in red. And the only difference here is we don't have the tick box, but we do have a right click option and we have the ability to change that stop credit status there. All right, we also have some changes to contacts. So under the contacts, and And under Accounts, what we do have is a new field in here called Account Type. Actually, this field was always there, but the account type always showed a number, 1, 2, or 3, relating to whether it was a debtor, creditor, or non-account. So now they've changed that from a number to an actual name to be a bit more meaningful, because a contact can be assigned to either a debtor or a creditor account. The creditor's payment processor, so this is always a bit of a bugbear with absolutely everyone that processed creditor payments using this method, was that it always defaulted to check when it opened up, and the first thing that you would need to do when you access this screen is to click the Direct Credit button. But now Direct Credit appears selected by default. No one pays by check these days, hopefully. Sentence case on extra fields. So extra fields, you are probably aware that in debtors or creditors and other areas you get the option to have extra fields. In the past though, these have just been limited to the first character being a capital letter and the rest being in lowercase. So that's not really relevant for this one down here, which is PH level, which is normally a smaller case P and a lowercase h. But I've left it on sentence case here, but what we can do is add an extra field or change this one so the first character can be lowercase and any other fields can be capital letters. And that also applies for things like IRD. Previously it would just be a capital I and lowercase RD. Just used to be a bit of a bugbear with people, that one. So that's been resolved. Also, people with lots of databases and test databases, you change your colour scheme. So down the bottom left-hand corner where we've got moto parts, this is using the grey colour scheme, but you might be familiar with it being green in your live and red being test and other colours if you've got a range of other databases. But now using exoconfig, you can change that to any other colour you wish. In the past, you could select from about 8 or so different colours, but that's really been expanded upon now. So we can use this icon here to change the colours. So I'll make it a peachy colour there. When we refresh, we can now see that that's changed to the colour that we chose from our picker. Another change is the Google Maps for geolocations functions. What I mean by this, if you're not familiar with geolocations, is once turned on, you can EXO can pick up the latitude and longitude of delivery addresses against contacts, debtors and creditors, and it will go off and search the web to pick up the exact location for that address. So it's picked it up here perfectly fine. I can click Save and Exit, Save and Close. The only difference here is that it used to use Bing Maps and now it uses Google Maps. Now that's gone green. There's been a few changes to job costing. As you saw before when I refreshed my settings, after that colour change, it prompted me for the date. So what that does, the system date, is it defaults any new transactions to whichever date I choose. So I can default my my system date to 31st of July, and then whenever I create a new transaction, it'll default to 31st of July. That's always been the case. People are using that at the moment, but what that didn't apply to in the past is job costing. So they've added that functionality into job costing, so it'll apply for all of your job transactions, and now we get the same screen appearing where we can choose whichever date. Another change to job costing is that there is now a feature that disables users from writing off lines. You can still cancel lines, and by default when you upgrade it'll keep the behaviour of what you currently have. So for new options like this, preventing users from writing off lines, you'll need to enable this feature in exoconfig. The same goes for geolocations, which I just showed you before, which was introduced a few years ago. These are disabled by default, but can be easily turned on. The invoice search option, so this is found under Utilities, Data Utilities and Invoice Number Search. This has always been here, but it was a little bit limited when you chose creditors. Now choosing creditors, you're able to search by company name, creditor name. Just a minor adjustment there to that feature. XO fixed assets, if you're running XO fixed assets, has had a bit of a change as well. So it's now more regimented in terms of what year you are in XO core has got to be aligned for XO fixed assets as well. So you can't operate fixed assets in a different period than you are currently in XO core, especially around when you are changing financial years. In the Clarity Report Designer, I'll jump into here for those who are familiar with Clarity Report Designer. This is where we can edit and make new reports. So there's been a major overhaul to the Report Designer application, and it's designed to make it easier for end users to use this reporting tool and expand on the feature set. So to expand on the feature set, what we've got here now is a Google Map component that adds an image that displays data from Google Maps. So if I add this down the bottom here, what we get is a map, and we can change the coordinates, the latitude and longitude. So that could look at a South Island latitude and longitude address there. And they have indicated that they're going to build on this functionality somehow in later releases, but in this version out of the box, as they're introducing this feature, that's what's available, and we can change this map, the static map, to look at, say, your company address. There is a paint box icon up the top here. So what this allows you to do is to draw pictures and shapes that weren't available using this shape feature over here. And there is also a new table grid option. So the table grid is a bit like a region, for those who are familiar with regions, where you can put in a label or a text box or any type of component that you like, and then you can drag this around and it will move with you. Why can't I? There we go, dragging it around. And those components within the grid drag with it. We've also now got design layers. So a design layer, you can see an image embedded in behind here, which is a logo of this company, Motoparts. At the moment we are selected on the foreground layer, but we can select the background layer and now see what is available in the background layer. And we can see here now that we've got the Motoparts logo, or your company logo. And this is applicable for not only logos, but any other background image like watermarks. When you preview a report, there's also a change where you now have a preview pane, and this would show you all of the pages that you've got available to you as a thumbnail, and you can click on the thumbnail to jump to that page directly. To help with making Clarity more user-friendly for end users to pick up and start designing their own reports, they have they've redesigned their help guide for Clarity Report Designer. And to access that, you can always access through the Education Centre, where it's always lived, but it is more user-friendly now. And when you select the version of 2017 and the Clarity User Guide and view, this will open up their revamped Clarity User Guide. Right, so that is about it for the new features in this version. Again, feel free to ask any questions if you've got any questions. They go into a bit more detail in the user guide on the features that I've just covered off here. And again, that can be accessed through this Education Centre as well by going into the release notes and selecting a version and then clicking View. That'll show you everything that I've shown you here and provide a little bit more detail as well. But in terms of an overview, that's what is introduced in the latest version. Well, thank you everyone for attending and taking your time out from your lunch break or from your workload, and look forward to seeing you at the next webinar. And hopefully you feel inspired by using the menu favorites pane which I've shown you, and get in contact with us if you'd like to know more about it. I'll hang around for a little bit longer to answer any questions, but otherwise have a great day. Thank you very much. All right, we've got one question here from Claudia. How do I switch on Google Maps function in exoconfig? So Claudia, we can access exoconfig. I know you've got that icon on your desktop. You can access this, and under profiles, geolocations, this is it here, so it's system-wide. It'll apply for everybody. A prompt for unset map coordinates on saving delivery addresses. By default, this will be disabled for you. But if you choose it to one of these two options, it will work. There is a disclaimer that comes with this though. There is a Google document, sort of privacy document that you sort of read when you do sign up to this, and we may need to make some changes to SQL to allow it. We have had a few issues in the past with SQL not allowing the communication between SQL and Google or previously Bing to work. But once you say allow prompt for unmapped delivery addresses, then, or the other option there, then wherever you see this delivery address, whether it's under a debtor or let's say a contact or creditor as well, then you'll have the icon here. So hovering over it shows you the statuses, and if we set in here not yet, I just want to enter another line. That's insufficient information for it to work, so it'll error, but this will be enough. It does have a tendency to look at the entire world, so it doesn't just look at New Zealand addresses. It might pick up an American address or a UK address if this is valid. Once you tab off it, then you can prompt it to look up, and it's found it. There we are. Save and close. That can then be reported on, so you can see where all your contacts are or your debtors are in a report or the like. Great, you switched it on already. Wow, that was impressive, and it's working. Great. Good to see. Rightio everyone, so that's a wrap. No more questions, so I'll end the webinar. Thanks everyone and have a good Thursday. Oh, actually no, one more has just come through now. Okay, so can we create our own folder or favorite? So when you create the menu's static, so you get the 3 panes: recent, favorite actions and favorite reports. Those are only 3 which are available. We can't add to that list. We can't really remove them unless you collapse that section and move it to the bottom of the list. Otherwise they always stay there. When you add options onto here, it's just a case of clicking on that option anywhere on your menu for it to display on the left-hand side. But it doesn't refresh, or it doesn't do any rollover into a new month and then refresh with a new list. We can do that other ways using widgets and grid menus though. So in the past, if you've got a monthly activity list of things to do, then we've created widgets. So these are widgets. This is a widget here, the utilities workflow. And we'd create a grid widget which would show you whatever activities you needed to do for a month, and that can be refreshed each month. You're welcome. Okay, so no more questions. Thanks everyone, and we'll catch you another day. Thank you. Bye.